in the beginning of our marriage, I never saw his burnout. I don't feel like I saw it because I feel like it just wasn't spoken about, which is strange. And so he never really spoke about it. And I think that's because of his model or understanding of what it means to be a pastor and a husband. And a lot of things in the beginning, I believe, bothered him, but he didn't bring it home. So I was kind of blissfully unaware, and it's still a lot of things that I think that he guards me from. Some things that I don't see, but when it's something we've learned enough about each other now to know when something's not right. And so typically when it's church related, and I don't get all of the details, and that's just how our relationship works. I don't want to be involved in the nitty gritty. Like I don't go to his official board meetings or anything like that, because that's the balance and the separation that I need. Because I know if I go in a meeting and somebody talking about my husband, like what you not going to do? I know that's right. Listen, Sister Susie, what you ain't going to do. So the Lord has already told me don't go. But when it's something that.
Welcome to the Burned Out Preacher podcast, where we have frank discussions weekly on ministry struggles and how many of us in the ministry have gone from overwhelmed and exhausted to calm and equipped leaders who love being in ministry. I am your host, Monique Addison-Stinson, burnout prevention coach for ministry leaders. Are you ready to overcome burnout? If your answer is yes, then keep listening. All right, welcome back to the Burnout Preacher podcast. I am your host, Monique Addison-Stinson, burnout prevention coach for ministry leaders, and I help ministry leaders who are overwhelmed and exhausted become calm and equipped leaders who actually love being in ministry. And so excited. I know you guys are like, you always say you have an amazing guest, but I do. I've been blessed to have amazing guests, and today is no exception. You can tell she's cute. She's already cute, okay? So she got that going for her, but you're going to hear exactly who she is and what church she's affiliated with. So, ma'am, if you can introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Monique, for this opportunity. I have been following your work for years, and so to be able to be here with you is amazing. Of course, we share the A.M.E. connection, and so the connectional church is how we connected. And so, so I am Melanie Bryant-Hearst. I am the first lady of Bethel A.M.E. Church in Wilmington, Delaware, where my husband, Reverend Dr. Stanley Hearst, the second, is the pastor. And I'm also known in these internet streets as Ask the Preacher's Wife, which is a blog. And, we talk about all things related to the church, the Black church, Jesus, the Lord, and everything else in between. So that's where folks come to ask the preacher's wife, and we talk about any and everything over on that side of the blogosphere. So I'm also a doctoral student at Widener University. I'm finishing up my PhD in social work at Widener. So that is on the horizon, and we are new residents of Wilmington, Delaware. We're originally from Philly. The itinerary moved us to Jersey City, New Jersey. And so now we are back in Philly in Wilmington, which is still really close to Philadelphia. And we have a wonderful 1-year-old daughter named Shia. She will be 2 September 11th.
What?
Yes, I know. Time flies, right?
You were just pregnant.
Exactly. COVID time went by like, we were in a vacuum, and now it's like 2 years. I'm missing 2 years of my life. Who am I? But yes, she will be 2 years old on September 11th. And she is my rainbow baby, my miracle baby, and the joy of our lives. So we are having fun with her. And so, yeah, that's what it is,
That is so awesome. So I'm going to add all of your social media links down below. If you do not follow her on social media, you need to. She is hilarious.
Yeah, I'm in and out of Facebook jail, so sometimes you'll get me. Other times I'm incarcerated,
Right. But, I told you I was incarcerated. So
right. It is what it is. Yeah.
They
sick of me.
Right. I got the death penalty. They were like, no, ma'am, you just out.
I appealed to the highest Facebook court and they said no. I said,
Exactly.
oh, this is what we doing. I understand.
Exactly. So I
Yeah,
just stayed off of that platform, honey. I'm
I
like,
get it.
whatever.
I get it. I understand,
Well, thank you so much again for agreeing to come on. I think I sent you a friend request. I can't remember where's one of those A.M.E. Facebook groups. I saw your post. I was like, okay, she my people.
That's right, girl. That's right.
She my people. I need
That's
to
right.
her
That's right. Oh yeah.
Just amazing, hilarious, just real. That's what I love. I'm not with the whole fake churchy. I'm this way in church and this way out. No, I don't do that.
I'm
And
with you.
Right. And that's the vibe I get from you. So I had to Facebook stalk you before I was on Facebook. And so happy I did.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Well, listen, over here on these Burnout Preacher podcast streets, we talk about all things burnout. And I always start out with, what's your definition of ministry burnout? When you hear that, what does that mean to you?
So, and I'm a social worker. So, I'm familiar with what burnout has looked like in my profession. And I think burnout is in ministry is when you get to the point where I think in ministry, you might get to the point where you're saying, I don't want to do this anymore. And I know it can look differently for different people, but I know for me, it got to the point where, it was an intersection of everything. It was an intersection of what I do professionally, an intersection of being a woman, being a Black woman. And then you have this church component over here that's supposed to be my safe space. That's supposed to be where I can go to relieve my burnout. And this is stressful too. And so it's like, should I just go? Because that's the only thing I can kind of think of right now. But no, I can't, because that's my Jesus and I love my Jesus. So I honestly think for me, it has looked like being at the tipping point of I either have to redefine some things for me, or I walk away on this piece of me that has been a foundation since for as long as I can remember. So to me, that's kind of what it has presented itself like for me, and kind of being in that space, especially because I'm not a pastor. I'm not ordained. And I don't believe that God has called me. He hasn't called me on the main line and told me what he wants in that regard, but it's a different experience for me being a first lady. So I'm kind of in this position by nature of what my husband's calling is, and having to juggle all of the responsibilities that come with that without a title, without an ordination. And so it looks very different for me. So it's been a journey. It has been a journey, and I'm learning and growing, but that's what it's kind of presented itself for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we are so much alike, because I had the same experiences, not experiences, but the same symptoms, if you will, with burnout and the church. And this is my first time saying this, but I actually left church for a minute when I was dealing with burnout. I was going through so much in my personal life, and church was burning me out as well. It was contributing to the burnout. And so I had to take a break. I had to step back, and I took a break from my church. I started going to a different church, and I was going to this other church because I wasn't a member. Like, I can go in and experience the service and not have to work.
Yep, I understand.
And so I was able to just enjoy God, if you will, and enhance my relationship with him in a different way, because I wasn't working. I was experiencing the worship. So I know it's nice. I was able to tip in and get on out. I wasn't staying for meetings and
I know that's right.
It was nice. I was like, oh, so this is
being a pew member. It has some benefits.
It has some nice benefits, man. I'm like, oh.
It does.
And so I had to do that. I had to take a moment. And so thank you so much for sharing that. I want to talk about your experience, you as a first lady. What have you seen with your poor husband? I think next season, I'm going to take a break for about a month with the podcast, but I want to come back and have more first ladies on. So
Okay.
what I feel sorry for y'all. I'm gonna just be real. I
Okay.
listen, I pray for first ladies all the time. But when I was single, I was like, I do not. People try to set me up with pastors all the time. Like, I do not want to be anybody's first lady. So
That was my prayer too. I said, Jesus, I had a list, okay? Because they started saying when I was single, get specific with your prayer request. Okay,
exactly.
no firefighters, no police,
Right.
they didn't want to knock at my door, no military because I couldn't
Same.
take, being apart. And pastors were on there because I've been in church all my life. I've been A.M.E for most of my life. And so I have seen that.
Yes.
I've seen that struggle play out, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not who I am. And like you said, I keep it very real. I am who I am. And when I met my husband, I avoided him for a while. I'm not going to lie. I said, you don't want to be with me. I'm not the one. I'm not, this ain't going to work.
Right.
And we had a conversation and he said to me, I'm not looking for a first lady. I'm looking for a wife.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, that sounds right. Are they trained to say this? You know what I mean? Okay, this is too good.
Right.
But so we started dating, and he was already in ministry, so that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because in a way, I kind of know what I'm stepping into, or I believe I know what I'm stepping into. You never can understand the life of being a first lady until you're in the position of being a first lady. And so, because he was in ministry, I knew what to expect from him. And so that allowed me to kind of frame what I thought my experience would be. And so in terms of burnout and in terms of what I've seen from him, it's very different because he is called. Now, if we're going to keep it real, everybody who's a pastor, everybody who's a preacher, they made it up themselves. Jesus ain't call them. Okay. I don't know who called him, but it wasn't my black Jesus. I don't know. Maybe it was Trump's Jesus. I don't know whose Jesus it was. It wasn't my black Jesus. But for him, it is a calling. And so he deals with that separately almost. And it's almost like he can compartmentalize to an extent in terms of, I know that this is what I am called to do, and he takes it seriously. And so I have always seen him planning. If he's not planning, he is writing down and journaling what his plans are as God gives it to him. And so what I can say about my husband is that he is dedicated to what he does. And it's so interesting because sometimes in these public spaces and public forums, first ladies are always going to talk good about their spouses, because especially in this church, anything that comes across that could be detrimental is not going to be spoken. But honestly, outside of all of that, because that man drives me nuts. Together we are, I'd be like, who are you? You know what I mean? But as a pastor, the man is truly anointed to do that. And so honestly, in the beginning of our marriage, I never saw his burnout. I don't feel like I saw it because I feel like it just wasn't spoken about, which is strange. And so he never really spoke about it. And I think that's because of his model or understanding of what it means to be a pastor and a husband. And a lot of things in the beginning, I believe, bothered him, but he didn't bring it home. So I was kind of blissfully unaware. And it's still a lot of things that I think that he guards me from. Some things that I don't see, but when it's something, we've learned enough about each other now to know when something's not right. And so typically when it's church related, and I don't get all of the details, and that's just how our relationship works. I don't want to be involved in the nitty gritty. Like I don't go to his official board meetings or anything like that, because that's the balance and the separation that I need. Because I know if I go in a meeting and somebody talking about my husband, like what you not going to do. I know that's right. Listen, Sister Susie, what you ain't going to do. So the Lord has already told me, don't go. But when it's something that begins to impact our relationship, and sometimes it's not even a specific thing, it just could be stress, it just could be tension. And when I begin to notice it, like, hey, something's off with you and we have to address it, we will. But otherwise, he has tried to keep it separate, and it works because as a first lady, a lot of times we're in the position where we know what's going on, but we don't have an outlet to be able to talk about those things. We don't have the opportunity to talk about it in our local churches, because then it's a confidentiality issue. So if I know that someone has harmed him personally, I can't go to them. I can't go to them and say, hey, you really disrespected my husband, because then it's a boundary issue. So a lot of things, unfortunately, and fortunately, sometimes go unspoken. But I know my husband well enough, and he knows me well enough. When something is really impacting him at the church level, we have a conversation and we say, hey, what's going on? And not details. I don't need to know the details. I need to know from him, how are you feeling? How are you experiencing this? How can you move forward with this so that it's not impacting us at home? And so that has worked for both of us in terms of being able to navigate and find a balance between life and church. And for most pastors, I don't think there's a separation. I think life is the church, and church is ministry, and ministry is life, and then church becomes life. And so we have certainly had to figure out ways to navigate that. And as we grow older together, I think it gets easier. It's easier for me because I know when meetings are. And so something might not come up right away, but in a week or so, it's like something bothered him. Something happened at that meeting. And while I don't need to know the details, I need to know what was your experience of what happened so we can process it, so we can be okay. And then we pray. We keep God in our marriage, because it's like, you can't do this alone, you know what I mean? And so we absolutely are mindful and prayerful, like, God, help him to move through this so that he can be effective as a shepherd and a pastor. So that's kind of been our dynamic, and we fine tune it. Like, we're not perfect. We certainly don't have all of the answers. Trust me, I don't, because sometimes I'm like, you know what, let's just move to Guam.
Right.
Okay. I'm still trying to hit the Powerball. Now, I don't play the Powerball, but somehow I'm gonna win the Powerball and 11 millions. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't even know how to pick the numbers. I don't even know how many numbers you pick. I don't know.
When it plays, like, none of that stuff.
I'm like, when is the drawing? I bought tickets before. Then I'm like, did they have it? Well, when did they pick the number? So when I miraculously win the Powerball, I'm like, let's just move to Guam. We could be done with it.
Exactly.
That's my perspective, of course. But so, like I said, we don't have all of the answers, but we continually, I feel like we're continually moving forward and trying to figure it out together.
I love everything you said, and you're so right. You're the first lady that I've spoken to that is not attending their husband's meetings.
No, ma'am.
I love that separation.
Now I could go to church conference, the quarters.
Right.
I don't do that either. I don't.
Wow.
I'm excused. Our presiding elder excuses me every time.
Really?
Because I know me too, and I know I'm very much involved. And we've been at Bethel, Wilmington since November. So it hasn't been a year yet. And so, I'm trying to find my place. Of course, as first ladies, we come in as the advisor to the Women's Missionary Society. So I'm involved with the missionaries, but just trying to find my place. But I know that my place is not in an official board meeting. Because I'm telling you, I'll hold that grudge forever.
That's what I'm saying. So let me ask you this, because I've been in an A.M.E church since I was a toddler, and I have seen many a first lady. So I'm in the 11th Episcopal District, and my church used to be the first church in the district, and so let me just say it. I'm trying to make it cute. Let me just go ahead and say it. So my church used to be the first church of the district, and it was basically a training ground, if you will, for pastors. So if pastors wanted to become the presiding elder, they wanted to get to my church. Back in the day, it's not there. It's not there. I don't know what number we are now, but it ain't first. But anywho, I've seen tons of first ladies. Like we've had so many pastors, tons of first ladies. All of them came to all the meetings, and if they didn't come, they were talked about. So were you talked about, or are you talked about?
Probably. Okay. I don't know. I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. You know, listen, so when I first got engaged, this was funny. When I first got engaged, I received a book that was written by Episcopal Supervisor Dolly Adams. And it's a little pamphlet book called like Woman in the Glass House. And it's like a training book for pastor spouses, A.M.E pastor spouses, right? And I remember getting the book, and I kind of flipped through the pages. This was another time when I broke up with my husband before we were married, but whatever. And it was like, you know, when the supervisor comes, you know, you put out fresh nuts and an assortment of flowers, and always be pleasant. And maybe you might want to play the piano. I'm like, I don't play no piano. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I ain't doing this. I'm not doing this. And it got to the point at the time with my fiance that I was saying, I can't do this. I can't live up to, I'm not doing this. This is not who I am. And we had to have a conversation of, this is my calling. And he was very clear. This is my calling. And technically it's my appointment. Whatever you do alongside of me in ministry, I want it to be the things that will enhance who you are as a person, not as my wife, not as a first lady. I want it to be fulfilling to you in the same way your life was before you met me. So I'm not worried about roles and titles. He's like, you know, I'm not going to allow anybody to talk about you or disrespect you because you're my wife. But you're not the pastor, and I don't expect you to be. So anything that you bring to the ministry is a benefit and an asset to me, but it's not an expectation. And I was like, what? You love me that much? You do that for me? So that to me, that was the selling point. I'm like, either this boy real good or this is the one. Right. And it ended up being this is the one, and that boy's good, you know, but me personally, and this is just my personal, so people are going to, and that's a lesson I learned maybe 10 years ago. It doesn't matter what you do. People are going to have an opinion. They're going to talk about you like a dog, good, bad, or indifferent. You know, I remember situations because, I'm gonna say it. At our last church, we lived in the parsonage, and I found out that people were upset that we did not invite people to the parsonage on a regular basis. And I'm like, that's my home. It's not a museum. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the Please Touch Museum. This is my home. And so, but again, I am who I am, and I love people. So I'm like, hey, I love you. And and we had great times, but there's somebody that's always going to say, it wasn't good enough. So in terms of meetings, they could talk if they want. I could care less. You know what I mean? And I have to be okay and secure enough in who I am and who God has called me to be okay with that. And so I am, you know, I'll catch the replay. And now I have a toddler. So that's kind of like an excuse. I'm right. But even before her, I wasn't going to the meetings. But, you know, that's my excuse. Like, oh, I can't. It's at bedtime, which it really typically is. But I wasn't going even if it wasn't. I'm not doing it because, see, again, as a first lady, we see everything almost in a detached way.
Yep.
So if our spouses are hurt, and this is for any clergy spouse, when our spouse is hurt, we can't respond. We can only nurse those wounds behind closed doors and pray that God will move the situation or whatever. But it's difficult because we can't respond.
Yep.
And if in any other family situation, another family member is able to respond. So if I see my child being hurt somewhere, best believe I'm addressing it with somebody.
Exactly.
I don't have anybody to address that to. Yeah. And so that's one of the ways that I stay kind of out of that mix, because it's just like, I don't want to know if you have issues with his administration, if you have issues, that's fine, because you're entitled to have that as a member of the church. I don't want to hear it.
Right.
Because I'm not called, and I might be lurking and waiting for you in the parking lot.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I ain't coming to the meeting. I ain't coming. I don't care. I ain't coming to the meeting. God bless you. Elder, how you doing? Tell your wife I said hello. Praise the Lord. And enjoy your meeting.
If I was ever a first lady, you are exactly you're the kind of first lady I would be, because I wouldn't want to go to meetings. I can't.
I'm not doing it.
I can't. I couldn't separate it.
Yeah. That's the hard part.
Cussing out my husband this week, and then 2 months from now, I can't. I haven't forgiven you yet.
No, exactly. I can't do it. So this is why early on we defined what I wanted to hear versus what he wanted to share, and we kind of like navigated there. So when I hear situations, it's never name attached, which is good for me. And it's good for him because it allows him to be able to talk about it without feeling like he's crossing a boundary. So I hear about situations, but I never hear names, and I might not hear about it when it was, so I could even piece it together. Well, I know he had a meeting with such and such. I might hear I might hear about it later, but it allows him to be able to express freely, and it allows me to be able to respond unbiasedly and freely so that we can move forward. Because otherwise, if it's somebody who I think might have a problem with me, he confirms it, I'm like, fire her. He like, but you can't fire people from the church. Yes, you can. He's like, you can't. So again, this is why I know God has not called me, because I would be sitting in the church with me, myself, maybe Shia, my daughter might come, and our dog, because that's all. Everybody else is going to be fired from my church. Everybody. I know it. I know it. So it can't be an A.M.E. church, because I'm firing people. That's not in the discipline, So it works. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we have found that works for us, so that I know what's happening, but I'm distanced enough from it, because at the end of the day, he's made it clear, it's his responsibility to cover me. But he also knows that because of who I am, I feel like I have to defend him. And he's like, that's out of the order. So it allows me to stay detached, but still be able to do what we need to do as a family unit,
Oh, I love that. Y'all need to do a training or something.
They ain't gonna want to listen to us, because when we get together, we start bickering like Tom and Jerry. I'm gonna send you something, because we did a podcast before and we looking at each other like, I know you lying today. It was hilarious, but that's just our dynamic. Okay, something ain't right.
I'm the same with my husband too, John. We always fuss it. My mom lives with us, and she just laughed. She was like, y'all need to do y'all own YouTube video, because y'all are hilarious.
We're gonna be on it together, because we just go back and forth. We did an A.M.E. Like preacher's wives and preacher's game night. I thought we was about to lose. Now we're similar in so many ways, but we were so, and I'm like, you better get this answer. Get it. And they was like, they crazy. Like, I told y'all not to put us on this game show. I told y'all. But that works for us. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. That is too funny. I love everything you said, honey. Oh my goodness. So has your husband, has he shown signs of burnout at one point? What did it look like?
See, again, because the pandemic was hard. And so that's when I really started, I think, taking notice of how how serious I think it was. The pandemic was difficult for everybody. And of
Yeah.
course, churches went scrambling to get online and to have digital virtual worship
Yeah.
services. And I know that that was very difficult
Yeah.
because we weren't able to see anybody. And so as a pastor, and for all of us as Christians, we're called to be relational people. So we have relationships with people. And I know that that was very, very difficult for him because it just wasn't, we weren't just going through this as a family. His responsibility as a shepherd and to care for the flock that God's entrusted to him, he wasn't able to do in a way that he had done it before.
Right.
And so I saw him begin to get overwhelmed. I saw him, and at the time we were in Jersey City, we had a pretty long membership list, and him trying to go through and call people, but then still being pulled to do other pieces of ministry now in a virtual way, but still trying to contact people. It was very difficult.
Yeah.
And then, managing the fact that for a while, nobody had any idea of what was going on. And I was pregnant. I was pregnant during the pandemic. And so it was just a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And him not being able to go to appointments with me. And I was a high risk pregnancy because of my age, and him not being able to be present, plus not being able to be present at church, and just feeling like I can't take care of anybody right now.
Yeah.
And so that's when I began to notice this is bothering him, and it's hard for him to kind of figure it out on his own. Because again, because this is his calling, he is, he deals with his stuff, and a lot of things he doesn't bring to me, but I just started to notice, and then we were literally stuck in the house. So everything kind of crashed down all at one time. And so, sometimes in our lives, certain things might be together and other things might be kind of going in kind of crazy.
Right.
But you're able to manage because this area is solid. So I can kind of divert some of my energy from there to here to deal with this that's not going so well. In COVID, it seemed like nothing was going well. Right. Here I am pregnant and terrified, like God forbid if I get it, I might die, the baby might die. He can't go to meet, he can't go to doctor's visits or anything. So that first time experience as a dad, he couldn't be there. Yeah. Plus, we had members who were dying. Now, prayerfully, thank God we didn't have any members who passed from COVID, but we still had the normal, but it was magnified.
Right.
It was magnified because everybody's like, oh, was it from COVID? And oh my God, if this was from COVID, then what about their family? And what about, so we had some people who had gotten sick and praise God, they recovered. Yeah. But, all of those things all at once, and then we're terrified about our own parents who were seniors at the time. Well, they're seniors still, but, who are seniors, and like this whole thing can go bad at one moment. And so I think for both of us, it was just a difficult time. Yeah. The beauty has been that we both are in therapy. We both go to therapy, and he is an advocate for therapy. Yeah. I am an advocate for therapy. And I really think that is what kept us together in terms of mentally during that time. Yeah. Yeah. So that was what one of the keys were in terms of staying sane, because not only was it COVID, we had a president who absolutely out of his mind. Sure. And we're like, George Floyd happened in that time. And
it was a lot.
It was a lot. And as a Black person in America, it's like, if you don't have PTSD or some type of anxiety, you must be living under a rock.
Right.
I think all Black people, period, need to be in somebody's therapy because we've endured so much. Culturally, we've endured so much. Yeah. So being in the pandemic in church, and it was a lot. But like I said, therapy has been the saving grace for both of us. And we at some point we probably will do like marriage therapy together, but it was important. It's always been important for us to have our separate time where we can decompose, where we can, you know, kind of share things in a silo without each other and be able to work through those things. So I know that that was helpful to him going through that period and going through that time. But like I said, in terms of his burnout, I know. And that's when, you know, you have to be connected to your spouse in a way where you can pick up something's not right here.
Exactly.
Something's not right. And so I'm grateful that, you know, and even now, like, you know, I have to ask, hey, what happened? Yeah. You know, like you're a little bit irritable. You've been irritable this week. And so that's how it shows up with my husband.
There
you know, he's irritable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's wrong with you? He'll be like little, and my tendency is to chuckle. And when he don't laugh back, I'm like, okay, this is serious, you know? So it's like, the other day I had a crook in my neck, and I couldn't find my neck pillow because I'll sleep with like a travel pillow. It kind of helps keep it stable. So I couldn't find it. And so the next day he came in and he said, I found this travel pillow. Do you still want it? And I was like, oh no, like, you know, I'm fine. He was like, I've been looking for this thing, and left out. I was like, okay. And then I was able to come in. I'm like, what is happening? What is you got upset about the neck pillow, you know? And we ended up laughing about it because he knew something was bothering him. It was something else. It wasn't church related. But again, it's just, I have to be in tune. I have to be in tune to be able to ask those questions and probe when appropriate, to be able to know, okay, is this something that's impacting us? What's happening? Do I need to, you know, what do we need to do? And then I follow through with that and say, you know, well, look, we figured this out. Maybe now you need to talk to your therapist and work through it some more beyond what I can do, or what I'm willing to do as your wife. You know what I mean? So, exactly. But that's how it's been. And that was probably the time when I saw it, you know, kind of really, really pop up. Really pop up around COVID, because that was just difficult. And I really felt bad for a lot of pastors who, and I actually did I'm sorry, I just changed conversation because I remember doing a phone conference one day, and I was talking about trauma, and I was talking about like church hurt and anger and processing grief and all of this stuff. And I was doing it for the churches in New Jersey. So in New Jersey, they had like a consortium that was run by the Office of the Governor. And they would have clergy come to like meetings, and during COVID, it was all on the phone. And I remember going through this presentation, and I'm doing it on the phone because people were still trying to figure out Zoom. Zoom hadn't popped up yet. And so we were doing it via phone. And I remember a time, and a man started speaking, an older gentleman started speaking, and he said, I'm sitting in the car in my driveway. He said, I just left a wife in front of the hospital because we couldn't go in, whose husband is dying with COVID. And then he got really quiet. And so the clergy on the line, they're like, whoa, hey, what? And I'm like, can y'all just not say anything right now? Let's just be silent. This man bawled. For about 10 minutes, he cried. I'm talking about a screeching cry that I had never heard before. And he said, thank you so much for doing this, because I've never had this release. And I am going crazy. I'm burying people from COVID and trying to be a pastor and trying to be a husband and trying to be a dad and a grandfather. And I am completely, I don't know what to do. And this today, you allowing me to cry has changed has given me what I need to move forward. And I'm just like, my God, clergy are suffering. You know what I mean? With no place to go. And so I know that it wasn't just for us where we were struggling through, but for so many other clergy people and people in ministry and leaders, that was a rough time. That was a rough time. So I'm grateful where we lived through it. And so many people did not. But I'm grateful that we're kind of on the other side now. And for both my husband and I, we can recognize things in each other because of that experience,
Right.
and kind of try to move forward with it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you shared that. And
Yeah.
you're right. I think I read a statistic that 1,700 pastors a month are leaving
Oh yeah.
pulpit.
Oh yeah. I believe it. Because I want to leave the first lady position sometime. I'm just
Listen,
real.
honey.
And not because of anything that anyone's done. It's
Yeah,
just
it's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And within our denomination, it's a lot that happens. It's a lot of the politics. And I'm not saying that even in a negative way. But it's a lot of things that happen and a lot of moving parts.
Yep.
And for me, even not being clergy, but just being connected to clergy, and this is the same for pastors' their children too. It's seeing a side of the church functioning that you haven't probably seen before, and being at a place of, I don't think I like this.
Right.
This doesn't look like,
yeah.
What is that? This doesn't look like, this doesn't look like anything remotely close to who I believe Jesus is.
Yeah.
And so I'm here with this because of my connection to this person. And I honestly think that when people leave the church, or when pastors leave, I wonder, do they go back and connect to another church, or do they just stay disconnected?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting you bring that up because so I turned 50 this year. So when
You a good girl, yes.
Come on now, trying, honey.
Yes.
But girl, I turned 50 this year, and when I was in my late 20s, I accepted my call into the ministry and entered the ministry. Whew. I wasn't prepared. First of all, in the A.M.E. church, at least in my district, if you accept your call into the ministry, they immediately put you on a pastoral track. I was like, I wasn't called a pastor. I was called to be in the ministry. That was first problem. And then all of, I'll just say, the stuff I saw, I was like, I'm not ready for this. Maybe I wouldn't. But I did. I do know I was called, and I am continuing to be in ministry in this format. But
I went to general conference last year. That was my first general conference.
Ooh, were they fighting?
Not that I saw. I don't know what was going on, because it was kind of like COVID. So the delegations were
Right,
in separate
okay.
rooms, and it was like, but what I experienced there, and I actually literally just got closure to this on Sunday, because I saw a side of people that shocked me to my core.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, is this who you've always been? And then how can I, and again, God gives us grace and God gives us mercy. And I get that. It was difficult for me though, to feel as if these people had been talking about us, or perhaps not being genuine with us. But we've seen you on so many occasions, and you present yourself one way, and now here we are, and you just messy.
Yeah.
And not only are you messy, I want to punch you in the throat. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, now I know the Lord is working on me, but I didn't know.
Yes.
Of this, wherever we are, the convention center in Orlando, so that was mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about local I'm talking about people up high in the connection.
Right.
How are you acting like that? How are you doing this?
Right.
How? Mind-boggling. And so for the last year, I've been on this, I've been angry.
Yeah.
I've been sad. I felt betrayed. I have felt, I felt everything. I felt like nonchalant. I have felt like I'll never trust anybody in this whole entire A.M.E. church ever again, ever. You know, I've been through all of those motions. At one point, I'm like, I'm going to be a closeted A.M.E. That's
You
what I'm
know
doing.
what? This is our first time
In the
actually
closet.
talking. Listen, this is
Yes.
our first time actually talking. You literally just described me.
It's hard.
It's
It's hard.
really
And then you have
hard.
to keep up the appearance of
Which I
godliness
am
when
not good.
inside
I'm not
you're
good at.
crazy.
I
Yeah.
can't fake it, honey. If you listen, if you piss me off, first of all, we need to talk about it.
Yes.
Let's address it now type of
Yes.
person. And I'm finding that people have problems with that. They don't want to address it. They want to
Absolutely.
continue to talk about you behind your back. Okay, so if we're going to take that person, if we're going to do that, then I'm not talking to you, period.
Right. That's what it is. You know, and it's been challenging to me
Yeah.
to be in spaces with people that I know you've not been genuine, you've not been honest with me. Don't talk to me.
Right.
Like, just don't.
Just
So
don't.
what I have found myself doing is I will go to places, you know, because now, you know, we're at Bethel, Wilmington, which is the #1 church in the Delaware annual conference.
Gotcha.
Yes. And so my husband travels, you know, he's on the general board. And so I have been fortunate to be able to go with him to travel to those things. Now Shy is turning 2, and that means she got to pay for a plane ticket. We ain't taking her. But now that she's free, we, you know, we go. Like, baby, you ain't paying those $200 for this seat. It ain't worth it. And you're gonna sit on my lap anyway.
Right.
But you know, we've gone, and I have been in places and completely separated. And people are like, well, where's Mel? Where's Mel? Mel is touring the city. Mel is in her room. She's at dinner. She's made other plans with friends. I don't want to do this, you know. And then it becomes like, well, who can you trust? And I do believe that God will reveal a select few, maybe one, a select one, that you can really have a genuine connection with. But otherwise, I mean, it blew my mind. I was completely just completely torn up by that. And I was able to get closure. I went to my old neighborhood on Sunday, where I grew up. And that reminded me that God has always ordered my steps. When I was young and running through the streets and running through the alley and riding my bike down a steep hill right into the street, God was always with me, and my steps have always been ordered. And that allowed me to close this horrible chapter from General Conference 2021 and be able to say, you've always been with me, God. You knew where I would be even then, even before I was on this earth. And because of that, I trust you, even when people are being who they are. I trust you, and I believe that you still have my steps ordered. Absolutely. And I was able to close that door, because otherwise I wouldn't have been, because it's just like, now I can't lie. When sister such and such come up in my face, Reverend Dr. such and such, I might have to say, don't talk to me. And I'm gonna pray about that. Right. My Melanie self. You know what I mean? Right. But I'm praying that the Holy Spirit would take over and say, you know what? God bless you. And I mean that genuinely. Now, don't play with me though. Right. Don't take that for, you know. Right. Don't cut you in the name of Jesus. Pray for me, okay? Because you hear what I'm saying, like, you know, like, Lord, that's what my husband be like. I don't know about you, you know.
I think we might be related. I need to look into your roots.
We need to. I love Jesus. I'm like, I love Jesus. I love the Lord. I love the A.M.E. church. And you can't just play with me. You can't talk to me any old type of way because you think you have position, or because you've been elevated to this, that, the third. Because in heaven, guess what? You're gonna be Bob, just like I'm gonna be Melanie. Absolutely. So don't play with me, because I'll send you to heaven with a bruise. Don't play with me. You know what I'm saying? Don't play with me. Don't play with me.
I'm gonna start calling you my sister. Just for for real. Because
call me.
Listen, honey.
It's real, yeah.
You have just described me to a T. That is so funny. And it's still some people on the side of it. And I literally just went through something last week. Actually, it was earlier this week. And I'm like, you know what? Y'all want to keep doing this? I'm out. I had to quit a ministry just because I kept putting up with the disrespect, the I'll just say disrespect. I'll just leave it at that. And I've been putting up with it for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
And the final straw was drawn. And I was like, you know what? I'm out. I'm out. You guys
I've had that conversation.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
They just clearly don't want to do right.
Yeah. I have had that conversation, and my husband disagrees with me. He's like, but if you leave, how does the ministry get done? And I said,
that's not my problem.
That's what I said. I said, God did not call us to be abused either.
That's my point.
And when because people are people, and I get that. Yeah. I understand that. But when you put your stuff on me because you have your unresolved stuff and you're in this lead role, I can't do that. And I have walked away from positions as well. Absolutely. I walked away from a connectional position. Absolutely. And I said, at the time I went to the connectional president and I said, I can't do this. And she understood why. Yeah. And I said, I can't do this. I know what I'm doing. I have the skill set to do this. I have the interest to do this, but I cannot continue to be in conflict with other people who are called just like me, who have the skill set just like me. I'm not in competition with them. I'm not going to impact my peace and be somebody else's doormat. Absolutely. You know what I mean? I can't do it. And so I whatever I can do outside of it, please let me know, please. But I'm not going to allow myself to be harmed. Exactly. For the sake of doing work. Exactly. I can't do that. I can't do that. And I think a lot of people, especially I think like in my age group, and I'm a millennial, I'm 82. I'm gonna be 40 this year. Lord Jesus, these gray hairs. Okay, anyway, that's another. Because I'm like, should I dye it? And I'm like, no, because my hair is short, it's gonna come back. I'm just gonna let it come in, however it's gonna come in. But I'm like, and I've said this and I've used this. I'm like, the people who have come before us, so my mom's generation, who is a boomer, you all have taught us that we don't have to accept the status quo. You did the fighting. You guys fought. You all said you can go to college, you could be whatever you want to be. And we've done those things. We've taken those steps. So you told us you don't have to not be educated because you're Black. So we said, you know what, we're going to college, and you pushed us, go to college, get a degree. That's the one thing they can't take from you. Go ahead. You want to do X, Y, Z, shoot for it. If you shoot for the stars or something, you aim for the moon or something, you'll land in the stars. Y'all taught us that. So don't be confused now when we say, right, we don't have to deal with the status quo just because that's what's been done forever. Even in church, we don't have to do that. We realize it's a way to get it done, and we can get it done, but we're not going to fight against systems and stuff like that where we're seeing injustice happen. We're seeing mistreatment happen. We're not going to do it. So somebody is going to have to change that status quo if you want folk involved, because you've taught us we don't have to sit through silently and just take it. Exactly. So you can't be shocked when we saying, I'm not doing this. Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Ooh, girl, I love you already, girl. Love you too. Oh, you act like me. Oh my goodness, you just act like me. You are so me. You're so me. Yeah. I don't even know where to go with this conversation. I feel like I need part 2 at some point. I was just getting ready to say we may have to do a part 2. Let me know. We may need to do a church hurt podcast episode. Talked about that too. Yeah, or something, because ooh, honey, these folks. And you know what? When I took that break from going to my church, and I was going to another church, and I was actually allowed to be present in that church, my relationship with God grew so intensely that now I can separate church from God. And I know people who aren't in church probably like, what? How do you? They ain't the same all the time. They should be. Right. But they're not. Absolutely. And I've had those moments too where I, kind of stepped back, stepped away for a few years.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because when I went back, that's when I met my husband. So it was just like, really, Jesus? Okay, this is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
But for me, I realized that we have to, and I studied faith development a little bit. And in that study, I realized that a lot of us, and it's theoretical, but the
Yeah.
theory is that just like with the theories of development, in order for us, we move through these stages. And one of the stages was our image of who God is. And so as a child, our image of who God is connected to our parents.
Yep.
And how our parents respond and react to us, that's how we view God to be.
Yeah.
As we get to the next point, it becomes our pastors and our leaders and our clergy. And so our representation and understanding of who God is in direct correlation to who our leaders are. And that's where we get in trouble, because when we begin to have conflict with them, because they're human beings,
Yeah.
then it begins to impact our relationship with God and our understanding of who God is.
Yeah.
And so that next piece, when we finally have that breaking point, we realize like, oh, okay, who I am as a Christian and my relationship with God is not contingent on anybody else. And it allows us to move, if we can get there, and process, not just dismiss everything that's happened,
right,
but process the pain, process the hurt, process the anger that comes along with church hurt.
Yep.
We can be able to move forward and say, I know who I am as a Christian, and I'm not going to allow a person to impact that relationship.
Exactly.
So, I'm going to go and find a church home, because the Bible calls us to be in relationship and in connection with other believers.
Exactly.
And I'm also going to create boundaries so that it doesn't happen again. And so that's kind of where I am. And that's why I can show up in an authentic way, I believe, because I've dealt with all that. It's not a heaven or hell that anybody can put me in. So your opinion of me, of what I do or what I don't do, is not of concern for me. As long as you can see the Christ in me, that's what I'm concerned about. Everything else, that's your opinion. You know what I mean? Exactly. Right. Exactly. And I'm not going to allow that to impact. And I had to wrestle with that, with this experience at General Conference.
Yeah.
I had to wrestle with that, recognizing that people, regardless of title, position, they're going to be messy. They're going to be messy.
People are going to.
And I'm going to still love Jesus. Yeah, they're going to be people.
Yeah.
And so I still love Jesus. So even going through that situation, I'm like, God, I love you. I can't stand such and such. And if I see him, I'm gonna cut him. Jesus, move this hurt, because I hadn't yet processed the hurt all the way. And so I believe that when we can process the hurt and the anger and actually get to the point where we can say, you know what, that impacted my relationship with God because X, Y, Z, and be able to really process that, we can move forward. Absolutely. I believe it. So we can do the church hurt series. I believe that can happen.
Absolutely.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge though, because we think about the church as a place for us to go and be healed and be whole. Yeah. And we can be, because that's a God thing. God is the person who does the healing and the wholeness.
Not the people.
Not the people. Child, they're going to mess you up. Right. You keep fooling with them. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So like
absolutely. And I also had to realize, and I realized this years ago, and this has helped me, in addition to what you said, I accept people how they are. Like, I go into any relationship with no expectations.
Right.
And I just allow people to be who they are. Right. And then I accept how I want them to show up in my life, if I want them in my life or not.
Right.
If I want them in my life, I need to accept that this is how this person is. I'm not trying to change them. I'm not trying to do any of that stuff. And so I had to accept that with church people as well. And I just, I'm like, okay, I see. Okay, I see how you are. Right. All right.
I see. And I'm working on that. I'm working on that. Like I'm almost there. I just, for some reason, I was blinded by the fact, like, oh, these are church people. They don't.
I know. It gets you every time.
They don't do that.
Get you
they
every
don't act
time.
Like that.
I know.
They don't act like that. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do.
And so, like you said, it's about discerning
Yeah.
who's going to be in my circle and where they're going to be in my circle, because
Right.
you have an intimate circle and then you have layers. It's layers to this,
Absolutely.
and so you could be around and I could say, hey, and that's it, and keep it moving.
And
And we
keep it
genuinely
moving.
be okay
Yep.
in that space. Hey, how's your family? Oh, that's great, girl. Well, you know what? We'll catch up next time.
Exactly. And that's
You know?
I'm
Yeah.
not bringing
So-
you're not coming over to have tea with me.
Right.
But I'm just
Exactly.
gonna,
We
right.
can't do that. We
Right.
can't do that. So, like I said, I get it.
Yep.
I understand. And, it's a process and it's a journey. So
Yep.
I'm excited to be able to be on this journey with my husband,
Yeah.
and for us to kind of navigate together. Like I
love
said,
that.
is it challenging? Absolutely. Is it unpredictable sometimes? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what has kept us, and I really believe it, is that I know that our marriage is a God thing.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Yeah.
And so at times when I'm like, I ain't doing this,
Right.
I think about all the ways that God has blessed us together. And I believe that God has the ability to really bring people to Christ,
Yeah.
through the ministry that he has, and that
Right.
I get to be alongside and partner with him in certain ways. And so that's the piece that kind of keeps me going
I love it.
when I'm like, I ain't doing this no more.
Right.
And I think about how many people that say, like, I've never seen a real relationship like you guys have, like where we actually bicker.
Yeah.
And, we go back and forth and we laugh and crack up at ourselves.
Right. Right.
But actually in our age range, them saying like, wow, this is what you do. And you're authentic and you're relatable and you're approachable. And I don't take that for granted. That's humbling to me because I've had to do the work to get there.
Exactly.
And so to be at this place as a first lady and saying I'm walking in my authentic self and mean that, and not be concerned about what that means to other people. Like, I've been clear. Somebody asked me, well, do you like Sunday school? I said, no, I don't like getting up there early. I don't. I was forced to as a kid.
Right.
I like going to the A.M.E. Sunday school because we grew up United Methodist, and I went to an A.M.E. church for Sunday school.
Gotcha.
And I liked it because, the Decalogue, they would say the whole Decalogue. And when they got to the ox and the ass, and they actually said ass in church, and we'd be cracking up in the back. I like this church. I'm coming back here. We be cussing in church. You know what I mean? Just young and stupid.
Right.
But, being able to walk in my authentic self is what has been the difference. And I'm seeing how God is using us to do kingdom work. And I don't take any credit for that because again, it's a God thing.
Absolutely.
It is a God thing. And I see the people who are coming into ministry and who are, and even through Ask the Preacher's Wife, we're able to talk about things like sex and, masturbation and relationships and situationships and all of those things. And I see that ministry is happening there. And it's like, okay, God, I'm going to keep doing this for you, not for me, but for you. And I'm going to see where you go with this. And so that makes the burnout, it gives it a different perspective. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And it doesn't mean that I don't have to take care of it, but I understand it in a different way. And when it happens, I'm not at the point of, I'm never doing this ever again in my life because
that's when you burned out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, I ain't doing this no more. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm done. Exactly. So that's kind of our dynamic, and it works.
I love
sometimes.
It. I love it. I love it, girl. Listen, I love it. We're actually at time, and I think it's gonna storm here in just a minute. So it's gotten really cloudy. The TV cut off. I was like, oh,
and
Lord,
black people don't stay on electronics in the storm.
Listen, and I'm in front of the window too.
Yeah, you better hang up that phone. You better get off the Zoom.
Let the
black
Lord
people don't play about storming.
Come on now, let the Lord do his work. I'm gonna move from
this.
So we gonna cut it off. But
I can't wait till part 2.
I know. Yeah, you're definitely coming back on. Definitely. So tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
So you can find me askthepreacherswife.com. That is the blog. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I have a Twitter account. I'm not really on Twitter. And TikTok. not really on that. That's my baby. You want to come say hi? But it's askthepreacherswife.com. And I'm on social media as Ask the Preacher's Wife. And here's my child. We took out her braids yesterday, so things is looking a little rough. Shia, can you say hi?
Hey.
Say hi? Okay.
She's like, no, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm busy.
So you can find me on askthepreacherswife.com, and I am around in the blogosphere, and we have a great time.
Perfect. Well, I will put all of that in the show notes so you guys can have that. But I have enjoyed you so much. You are definitely coming back.
Likewise. Look, we're connectional, so let's stay connected.
Absolutely. And you're my sister. I need to talk to my mom. I'm like, did you have another baby?
I think we're related. Absolutely. Call my mom and let her know.
Yeah.
That she has another daughter, and it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm gonna have you back, sis, and we're gonna talk some more. I really want to get into church hurt. I really do.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's do that. It'll probably be like in 2 months though, because I'm gonna take a break next month.
Let me know. Whenever you're ready.
Listen, and then I will reach out, and we will definitely have you come back on.
Awesome.
Well, you stay on, but I am going to end it here, everyone. So that is all. I have enjoyed this so much, but that is all. I catch you guys next time. Bye.